Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Club Lorcana podcast Victory Edition.
Hell yeah.
We got Zan Syed. Zan, tell them what happened to you this past weekend.
I won the Vegas DLC.
Zan won the Vegas DLC. What all did you win? Let's go through it for the crowd.
I won Golden Mickey, number 14.
Gold Mickey 14.
I won the binder full of set 5 foils and all enchanteds.
All the enchanteds in set 5.
Yep. And then I won the Rapunzel, the Cinderella, and the Let It Go.
For our viewers who are under a rock, what deck did you play to accomplish this?
I played Green Steel Discard.
Green Steel Discard. Not really a deck that was on anybody's radar going into the weekend.
Yeah. Honestly, it was kind of a wild ride how we figured it out.
Yeah. Walk them through it, because we have done this before. We're like old TCG pros.
Yep.
But for a lot of the people with us, our method of getting to the deck seemed like impossible out of left field. So talk about how we figured out Green Steel.
Yeah, it was pretty mad. It's pretty mad how we figured it out.
Mad.
I want to say Lorcana bro, Aaron, is a major part of it. So Lorcana bro reached out to me earlier, 1 week before, basically, the DLC, and was like, do you want to test? I was like, yeah, sure. He sent me a Green Steel list that was based around the cow. Clarabelle. And I thought the deck was not great, but what I liked about it was the Diablo package. I still believe that the Diablo package with Pete, with the addition of Pete, was still extremely good.
Yeah, and it's even better when it has fewer eyes on it, because people don't whip out the Peter Pan Shadow Finders or things like that.
Exactly. And so even though when I think decks are bad, I still am willing to test them just to learn something.
Sure.
Because I think Lorcana bro is a good player. So I don't think he arrived to that conclusion with no evidence.
Reason.
Yeah. No, for no reason. So I was like, okay, let me try it out. Tried it out. And the deck still felt terrible. And so I was pretty set on playing Amber Steel, and I was trying to get him to play Amber Steel as well. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I need to try out some discard packages. So what are some discard packages that you could play? And so I stumbled across Spessie's list. European caster, great player, good content creator. He had a red-green discard deck and that played Robin Hood, the new red 4-drop Robin Hood that can play actions from the top of the library. It's a top 4. Looks at the top 4.
Yeah, the red legendary Robin Hood.
Anyways, I tried the deck, and I didn't really like it. Something felt kind of off about it, but there was a card that stood out to me that just kept being so impressive, and that card was Hypnotize.
Yeah.
And I took Hypnotize, and I thought about it a lot. And I thought about it. I was like, you have forgotten me, and this card are very similar. Honestly, Hypnotize is just better because it's never dead.
Never dead. If they don't have a card, just so you know, at home, and you play Hypnotize, then you still get to draw a card.
Exactly. And so in Magic, there's an ability where you can, called Cycle, where you can discard a card to draw a card. And you could do that with lands in Magic. And so in Lorcana, I was thinking, it's the same thing.
Cycle.
At worst, it's just going to be Cycle.
Cycle 3.
Like, just get rid of this card, and we still get to draw a card. So, but at best, you can have a Prince John. And that means your opponent discards 1, and you draw 2.
Or if anybody watched your finals, at best, you could have 2 Prince Johns.
Yeah. And in this tournament, I had 4. And you can draw 5. So it was quite incredible. It was a really incredible card. And we learned that discard is a really powerful ability from Bucky. But not only Bucky, we learned it from Yellow-Green. That it can win a tournament by itself. And so with all that knowledge, I started putting together Green Steel Discard. Lorcana Bro helped me test it all out. We tried Smees, we tried Robin Hoods, and we kept cutting and trying different cards, even up until Friday.
I feel like Friday is when this deck really exploded.
And I would say Friday is where Jeremy comes into the picture. And Thursday and Friday is where Jeremy comes into the picture. Basically, the boys, Ryan, Nathan, Shark, Ed, James, Jeremy, other Jeremy Edmondson.
Yeah.
Am I missing anybody else?
I mean, no, not really. That was our Airbnb fully.
Yep. And so I messaged them. I was like, yo, can you guys test this deck out? And so, Jeremy, what happened?
Well, so for my trip, basically, this was the first time I had ever been to Vegas.
Yep.
And one of the people in our friends group, he said, like, hey, I can stay in Vegas whenever I want for free. I get free stay at the hotels. And we kind of all had like a moment of silence and we were like, that's rough, buddy. Because we all know why somebody gets to stay in Vegas for free. You know, so we were like, oh, okay. He was like, so if you want to go up earlier, I can go. And we talked about it. And he and I, and later on Shark, when he heard about the plan, decided to go up Wednesday. Mm-hmm. On Wednesday, I go up and I said, I'm going to do Vegas. So I like played in a poker tournament and went to the buffets and went to the Taco Bell Cantina Happy, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I did Vegas hard. But then, so that what the advantage of that was is on Thursday, I woke up and I was ready to get focused.
Yep.
So we talk to you, we call you on the phone, and you basically get a set. You're like, you guys need to test. You guys need to test this green steel. And you send us a list. We get it together, boom, and we're still at the casino.
Yep.
So we're playing cards in the casino, okay, but we're not playing blackjack. We're not playing 3-card poker. We're playing Lorcana.
The real game.
The real game. And so we get it together. We're playing back and forth, you know, thinking about it. We don't love it into red-purple. We think it's, like, bad into red-green, and we're kind of like, this build is just a little bit off. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of in that limited amount of testing what we were able to discern. Our big takeaway was that we hated it into blue-red.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I came that night and I was like, give me the deck.
Yep.
Let's play the matchup.
So this would be Thursday night.
Yep, Thursday night. And I proceeded to just pummel it to the ground. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like a play style differentiation. And this is where, you know, testing can become bad, where you don't know if it's the deck's fault or you don't know if it's the way that you're playing it.
So we learned pretty early on when you got there. I was like, okay, Zan's playing this deck different than we are, because when people wrath against us, we just lose. And when I wrath against Zan, he plays 3 guys, and then I wrath again and he plays 3 guys. So something different is happening.
Yeah. With this style of deck, we learned from Bucky that the way that you have to mulligan is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable to the point at which I was in the finals, game 2, up a game, and I mulliganed 7.
Whoa.
I mulliganed 7. I don't think everybody got to see that because they didn't have hand cams for that.
I don't think we got to see how much you altered in game 2, but maybe you did, and I was just sweating.
The alter was 7.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, that's scary. Like,
Alter 7, you could just get back a bunch of 3s and be out of the game.
Exactly. But no, I had Diablo on turn 2. I had the most nutty hand you've ever seen.
So on Friday, I think, is when we learned that a couple other testing teams were kicking around green steel.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the way that it happened. So I met up with Lorcana Bro in person. We're all playing in this Friday event because we need more data. Data is going to tell you whether a card is good or whether it's bad. You have to put it up against other players.
Yep.
And their reaction to it, whether they're capable of dealing with it and what type of spot it puts them in, is going to tell you whether or not your card is correct. So there's a feeling I'm looking for, and that feeling is my deck can give, like, if I play it in like perfectly, that I can create a situation where I'm fighting for every game. And I learned that feeling primarily through Amber Steel in set 3. When I was playing Amber Steel in set 3, I felt like I can win any game no matter how far behind I am.
Right. You can fight it out.
Exactly. And I was looking for that feeling. And the cards that I currently had in my deck weren't letting me feel that. even though it was like by the tiniest bit.
Sure.
So in the tournament, we were playing Smees and Crickies.
And then when you say the tournament, you mean the Friday day tournament.
Friday day tournament, which is a best of 2 8-round tournament. Whoever finishes on top finishes on top.
I elected not to play that tournament so that I could sort of walk the aisles and get kind of like a finger on the pulse of the metagame.
Yeah.
Which I really liked, by the way.
No, I love that you did that because at the time you were on red purple.
Yeah.
And I think that this allowed you to feel like rather than be narrowed in on your deck, you were able to focus on what is doing well and what you could potentially pivot to.
And I played some pickup games with some pretty good players.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sam. Pretty good players that were on decks that I was noticing was all over the room. So I was like, green purple's everywhere.
Yep.
So I found a green purple player that knew me. We actually played in SCG Dallas when I played Burn.
Wow.
I think he played Tron. So we played and he beat me. And we played and he was beating the brakes off me with green purple, which I saw was everywhere. The red and purple deck just wasn't like configured to beat it really. And so that's like sort of what prepared me to do the pivot to green steel, because I was like, okay, red purple is great, but not quite good enough for me right now. It doesn't feel like, it feels like I'm nervous about tomorrow. I need the sauce.
Yeah.
So that was good, but also I just got a huge sense of the metagame. I came out of that and I said blue-red's everywhere, which ended up being true. It was 22% of the field.
Yeah, it ended up being the most popular deck.
So I walked the aisles. Anyway, you can keep going about, you saw Lorcana Bro. I know you saw some of the Labyrinth guys and they were talking about green steel.
Yeah. I mean, Lorcana Bro is on that Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my main conversation was with Lorcana Bro, R&B a little bit, who was a non-believer, but became a believer by the end, but that's too late.
Yeah, Sunday is not when you can become a believer, unfortunately.
But, I mean, better late than never.
Honestly, Friday's pretty much pushing it. I really wish I didn't have to stress out all the
R&B,
time.
I did play Green Steel on Sunday, so that's something.
Fair enough.
But at the time, I'm like, all right, I got to just be around people who believe in this deck, so I can just not think about not playing this deck, think about how I can play the best version of this deck.
So there is a card that I want to talk about that I know was on our radar before we had all this collaboration, which is Morph. How did Morph get on your radar?
So it got on a couple different ways. I'll give this one to Ryan.
Sure.
Ryan was playing like a full-on Morph version of the Green Steel deck, and he decided that separately. He tested with Nathan, one of the other roommates, and he was playing Morph. And I had Morph on my radar too, but not as much. Like, he dedicated the whole thing to it.
He was really trying to figure out Morph.
Exactly. And so,
for those of you who don't know, this is Ryan Walker. He's an ATL player. He's pretty good. But anyway, he tests with us, so I mean that's great. Anyway.
Yeah. So basically, the thing that led me to it was not what Morph could become. Like, people would think, oh, Morph and Beast, that's the reason why you did this.
Sure.
No, the actual reason why was that even if you can shift Diablo on turn 3, it's that good that you want another way to more.
Well, it was a couple things. We wanted inkable cards. We wanted 2-drops because we were playing Shmi.
I mean, if it could be a 1-drop more, we would take it.
Sure, but we wanted 2-drops or lower. We were looking for playables. It was inkable, which was important, and the Diablo synergy was just crazy. And then the Beast synergy came up. And then in testing, we actually learned about the secret third God mode synergy.
So there was a player that was playing Green Steel in that 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Who was playing Tinkerbell.
Yep.
And so that's when I went up to Lorcana Bro. This was like around 4-ish. I was like, look, this player is playing Tinkerbell. Should we be considering that? So we were like, okay, we're going to be trying 4 Morphs and 2... Tinkerbells. And that will allow us to have a good other shift package. At that same exact moment, while we're having that conversation, the other camp, which is Ed, the winner of Dallas, comes up to me and is like, you leaked the deck. And I'm like, what is this person talking about?
Sure.
And apparently, separately from us, Ed and his crew came up with Green Steel, literally like 6 cards off of ours.
Almost the exact same deck.
And we had just decided that we were going to put Morph and Tinkerbell in. And Ed confirmed it for me. I was like, they playtest so much that if they're playing 4, then I should be okay with 2.
Yep.
Because I was not going to give up Muses. I just believed in Muses and Cove so much that I was not going to let them go. And I was trying to convince him to put them in because I was like, look, you're playing 4 Ana, which is too many uninkables for this style of deck.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2 is Cove creates the most anomalies in this entire game.
Cove is very weird. When the Cove gets involved, like sometimes all the cards in my hand stop working.
It's so wild, right? Against red decks, we can specifically think about Sisu. Against, and then against Medusa, we can like Beast Medusa interaction. You can think about that as important too because you can make a Beast for attack, and then Brawl, right? You can make a Diablo 3. On top of all of that, it creates a lot of situations that allow you to deal with locations.
Yes.
And locations are really tough to deal with for this color combination because you don't have the slots anymore to give a Long Came Zeus or Titans room, you know?
And this is a tough color combination. You don't have the Cuscos and the Hideaways. You know, Amethyst and Ruby have all the rush creatures, which make it really hard to keep a location on the board. But yeah, Green Steel specifically, you have a Long Came Zeus, Rise of the Titans, and then other than that, you just have to have the board to deal with locations, so it's not always the easiest.
Technically, you can say you could play Simba, but that card's terrible.
You could play Simba.
Card's terrible.
Oh, okay. Well, I said it.
I mean, destroys locations and items. So yeah. So we then decided on 4 morphs and 2 Tinkerbells, and there you have it. This is what we're playing on Saturday.
We got the deck. I remember we went to a restaurant. I don't remember exactly what it was, but on the way out of the restaurant, I was like, I'm in for the deck. It looks really good. I watched you play it a little bit on Friday, and I think the morph package, having those options, your morph options were all so good. A lot of the times morph has like bad options in these style of decks.
Yeah.
Like when people play like Jafar or whatever, it gets me so off it. I don't care about this. But if morph is Diablo, Beast, or Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell means that your board is gone.
Yeah.
I'm in for that.
Yeah, I mean, the deck is has the most powerful starts.
Yep.
And then on top of the most powerful starts, it basically deals with all of its situation, like all of its problems by making your opponent discard the card, right? Imagine if there was a removal spell that could deal with any card, you know? And that's what Sudden Chill is. I mean, Sudden Chill is a banger.
So Green Steel is Green Steel, and that's great. And I love talking about how we got there. But let's kind of skip to the end a little bit. And like, you won DLC Vegas. I mean,
I did.
I know in a lot of your interviews you were like, it still hasn't set in yet. But now here we are, like 2 days later. How do you feel? What does this mean for you?
To be honest, it still hasn't set in.
Dang it. We'll record again tomorrow.
I mean, I don't think it will set in, and I want to keep it that way, honestly.
Okay.
I think that this doesn't change anything. It doesn't change my testing process. I'm not. I'm gonna test the same way I've been testing because it works.
It's getting really good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm getting better and better at the testing process. I'm gonna just continue to improve that. I don't really need to be like, oh, I'm a winner now, so I don't need to test, or I need to test in a new way because I have more opportunities to test with people that I may not have had an opportunity to test with.
There was a poll on Twitter on who's the best Lorcana player right now, and I know that when you accepted the Golden Mickey and came out, the crowd was chanting "Goat, Goat, Goat."
Oh yeah.
How does the GOAT conversation affect you?
I mean, I think that the GOAT conversation is one for players that have retired.
Okay.
And I feel like this is the beginning of my journey. So if I accept being one of the greatest, then I feel like I'm accepting retirement. And this is just the beginning.
I mean, you heard it here, folks. Here first, folks. Zan is, he doesn't care about all this GOAT stuff because he's not finished yet.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to go to Disneyland in California.
Great.
We want to win that. And then we want to hopefully go to Disney World after that.
For those of you wondering how I did, I started out 3-0, pretty good, walking the path. I queued into Zach Bivens, who's great, and then it was the Green Steel Mirror. And I'll tell you, sometimes in the Green Steel Mirror, all your guys die. I didn't get to untap with any of my guys at either games. He drew a bunch of cards with Diablo, and my Diablos got eaten up by different effects or whatever. I mulliganed super hard for the Diablo combo, which I think is super important in the mirror.
Yep.
And just never quite got there. And so I lost to Zach Bivens, and he was a great guy. I feel like I got in his head a little bit. So I had him talking. I had him missing some Diablo triggers.
He did finish number 1 seed.
He did finish number 1 seed,
going into top 64.
That's great. I lost to him, and then I had some ups and downs, and finally there was a round against Red Blue in that stage of the tournament where I was basically playing best of one.
Yeah.
Because both of us were out if it was a split.
Yep.
So I played a best of one against Red Blue on the draw, and I mulliganed super hard to find any cheap things to do, and it was all 3s and 5s in my opening hand.
Oh, that's the worst.
By then it was too late, and that was the end of my tournament, but I feel like I played really well, to be honest. I felt like I was totally walking the path in the first bunch of rounds, and then even then I was playing really well.
No, I completely agree. I mean, Jeremy and I have this thing. It's called Twin Dragons. It's when we both decide to play the same deck, and we just are just in sync. And for the first 3 rounds, we both finished 3-0. He even got to witness some of the craziest things that we've ever experienced in a tournament, which was in my round 3.
So, okay, let's start talking about your round 3.
Yeah.
Before we start talking about it, I want to say this.
Yeah.
Ravensburger has actually made a statement on the Lorcana TCG Facebook page about the incidents surrounding round 3.
Okay.
Basically, what I want to make clear is that we trust Ravensburger to deal with this situation. So what we're not doing is inciting a witch hunt. We're not going to talk about who it is or anything like that.
I completely agree.
There was a disqualification for cheating in the tournament, and the offending player was bizarrely enough,
my opponent,
Zan's opponent. And at the time, I was sitting right next to Zan because we were both XO or whatever, and I finished my round. I noticed he was still playing. There was a seat empty next to him, and I went and just sat next to him. And boy, I'm glad I did. So I think that a good way to tell the story is going to be like, what did you notice? What did you do when you noticed it? And if the viewer at home sees somebody doing something like this, what should they do? So talk about what happened.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to preface is a lot of my friends come and watch my match because they're kind enough to do that. And so I didn't really notice Jeremy. I noticed him, but not really. Like, basically, I have blinders on, and it's just me and my opponent. Like, I literally don't see anything but me and my opponent. And I'm, like, really focused in on the game, unless someone starts yelling or something.
Sure.
But I'm, like, usually really, really locked in. And so I'm playing against my opponent, and my opponent, Whole New Worlds, and plays a couple of cards and has a decent field, but I have managed to pull ahead, and I have like a Diablo, a full board with Ursula, and just like in a really solid position. And so I take my turn, and usually when Whole New World happens, I like to follow up by playing either a Pete or playing an Ursula. Mm-hmm. The reason why is because all of their catch-up mechanisms, if they're the ones that are behind, are
songs.
Yeah, exactly. And so if I can prevent that or slow them down, then that means I'm going to be able to maintain my lead longer. So the first card I play is Ursula, the 2-drop Ursula that allows me to take a song from my opponent's hand. So I see my opponent's hand. It's 2 Rapunzels and then 2 Svens, which is the moose that can untap one of your characters.
Yep.
And it can attack again or sing a song again, but cannot quest. So, and then the 5th card was a Strength of a Raging Fire. Mm-hmm. So I have a Diablo on the field, want to keep drawing cards, so let me just take that Strength. So That's what I did. I took the Strength, and that's the only card I could take.
Putting him down to 4 cards.
Exactly. So there's 4 cards remaining in my opponent's hand, and then I proceed to play another Diablo and Morph. And after when I play the Diablo and the Morph, my opponent proceeds to ask, and I said pass. Then my opponent proceeds to ask me, what did you pay? What did you discard to shift the Diablo onto your morph? And in my head, it was such an odd question.
You tapped or you exerted 5 ink.
Yes.
And I saw you do it. You're pretty clear. You exerted 5 ink, and I'm going to play Morph, and I'm going to play Diablo.
Yep.
And your opponent goes, okay, what are you discarding to shift? And but that was after quite a bit of time.
Exactly.
He was just staring at your board, and then he's like, what are you discarding to shift? And you're like, I just played them both. And he's like, oh, okay. Then what happened?
Then my opponent proceeded to draw their card for turn. And the thing that I was thinking was, why would my opponent ask that question? Such an odd question. It's clear as day that I didn't do that, and no one would do that in this position.
Sure.
And so then I looked up and I saw my opponent's hand, which for the most part felt like was fanned out. So meaning that I could see all of the cards that were in their hand had now become a clump. And so I proceeded to ask my opponent the question, how many cards are in your hand?
Mm-hmm.
And which led to a deep, long breath and the fanning of 6 cards. And since I had just Ursula'd moments before, I was confused.
Yep.
And my opponent decided, my opponent's excuse was the cards stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
When have you ever drawn a card for your turn and decided that you didn't want to look at it?
These were sky blue, brand new Dragon Shields.
Yes, that is true.
Possibly the least sticky cards I've ever seen.
Yeah, because in round 1, they got a deck check and were asked to change their sleeves. So these are brand new Dragon Shields.
And everybody knows those things slide around. I'll tell you what they don't do is stick together.
They don't stick together.
Anyway, you call a judge.
I immediately called the judge. A judge comes over, and I'm like, Judge, can I talk to you away from the table? After when my opponent tried to explain the situation, I told him, I told him the exact situation that I told you. And then the judge proceeded to go get the head judge.
Yep.
So to get one of the head judges. Then the head judge came over and then asked my recollection of the event and my opponents, and the resolution of that was a warning. And so I tried to appeal and then talked to the judge again and said the same story and said, look, I do believe that my opponent's cheating and I do not believe they should be allowed to play to continue in this tournament. And I felt like we still weren't on the same page. And so when we returned to the table, Jeremy was still sitting there, so he got to see the way things were playing out from a different angle, because I had to go talk to the judges about my recollection of what had just happened. So what did you see?
So basically, Zan, when the judge comes back after the initial talk with Zan, the judge is treating it as a drawing extra cards error.
Yep.
So the judge is about to explain that we're gonna put them both back and then shuffle and then draw a card or whatever, taking apart the known cards. And then Zan goes, no, we got to talk again, because Zan understands that this is more than a looking at extra cards issue. This is this guy's trying to draw an extra card, which is a different. The fix for that is a disqualification, right?
Exactly.
So they leave, and on the second time that they leave, this person understands that Zan knows that I'm trying to cheat and is totally trying to make it happen. So that person gets really nervous. They start sweating. They're visibly taking deep breaths, closing their eyes, they're going like this. Effectively, this person starts freaking out.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty understandable, because this person understands that they're basically caught almost dead red-handed.
Yep. It is red-handed. It's you have the 6 cards. You don't have a good excuse. You try to distract me. Mm-hmm. It's just too much evidence.
So there's 2 judges around, and then Zan goes off and talks for a final time. And then basically what I saw after that was the 2 judges come back, and then they want to talk to your opponent.
Yep.
So they take your opponent to the side, And then after a long time, your opponent comes back, and your opponent's like, "Hey, man, I just want to give it to good games."
Yeah, that was the response when they came back to the table, and that was giving it all away.
Yeah, if you weren't guilty before, even though you were incredibly guilty before, coming and sitting down and saying the heat on me is too hot and I want to just get out of here certainly seemed like we were both like, okay, dude, wow.
Exactly. I mean, it was like, and I still didn't feel satisfied. All right, like satisfied is the wrong word. It's like we cannot let this person continue because they are going to jeopardize the integrity of this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they like, my first interaction with this person was they told me that they were a big fan and they've watched all my videos. So if they're willing to do that to someone that they're a fan of,
sure,
why wouldn't they do it to anybody else?
Most people aren't watching cards in hand that close, then they won't notice if somebody tries to distract them and draw 2 extra cards.
I didn't notice that my opponent drew 2 cards. That's the honest truth.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the question after everything had happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, that question is weird. What's going on here? This player seems too good to be asking such a weird question.
Interesting. So yeah, they gave it to you, and then let's keep talking about, because I want people to know what they like, certain actions they can take. And what else happened about that incident in the tournament?
So, I don't know what else I can say about it, but there was a follow-up later on.
Yeah.
And the result of that follow-up, I'm assuming there was an investigation and talk among everybody else. Other people came up to me and said, this person has been accused before and blah, blah, blah. I didn't take too much stock into that. I knew that the judges were so good at their job.
Great.
And would follow up and didn't want this in the tournament and would figure out whether or not this person belongs in the tournament. All I felt like I needed to do was let them know how I felt and that it would be bad for everybody collectively if we don't stop this now.
Right.
And we found out more information that, you know, this player has won a lot, and I feel like this person is qualified for continentals, and we definitely don't want someone who is actively cheating to get rewarded for their behavior. And so it's better to stop it now than give them opportunity to cause more harm.
What I want to say about it is, right now Lorcana is a pretty new card game.
Yep.
You have people coming from all the other trading card games, and you have a bunch of new people.
Yes.
In addition to that, there's a lot of money on the line in these DLCs.
Yep.
More than I'm used to with Magic the Gathering.
I think more than anybody's used to with card games in general.
So there's what I'll say to our viewers is the actual first and best line of defense against a cheater is going to be you, the opponent, because you got to watch these, because judges can't catch all these things.
Exactly, and nor are your friends going to really be able to catch it. Jeremy is my best friend, but no one's going to be in tune with the game the way that you are.
Sure.
You gotta, like, everybody assumes that the judge or your friends are just as in tune with the game as you are. That is not true. And so we need to protect ourselves, and the best way to do that is have a things that you do that will help protect yourself, like knowing how many cards in your opponent's hand there are.
I will say, always cut your opponent's deck.
Yes,
especially post altering. I saw a lot this tournament. I actually had one friend where I was like, how many times did your opponent cut your deck after you altered? And they were like, none.
That is insane.
I'm just saying, I'm letting you know. So
I had 0 opponents, by the way. I had 0 opponents.
Not cut. But you probably presented a cut.
I presented a cut every time.
Of course, because we're used to this. But our friend is new.
Yes.
And doesn't care that much about it. Frankly, yeah. I mean, they care a lot about the game, but they're not cheating and they're not thinking about cheating.
Yeah.
So in their mind, like, oh my God, why do we have to cut each other's deck all the time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just how normal people feel. So he doesn't go like, oh, do you want to cut my deck? He's just like, he cuts at the beginning, and then he does the altar, and then he just starts playing.
Yeah.
If you go like, hey, let me cut your deck, he's like, sure, man, whatever you want. But so for him, nobody cut that guy's deck. So always cut your opponent's deck after they alter.
Yeah. The other thing is, this is gonna be hard to do because you feel so attacked when it happens. Mm-hmm. You got to keep your composure and be able to articulate the story, because if you freak out, you're going to not be the one that the judge trusts is telling the truth.
Yep.
Because the truth is that you also have something to gain here. So
yeah, absolutely.
So when both people have something to gain, right? The truth is not what's going to come out. Especially if your opponent, like, let's say I caught my opponent and my opponent was a smooth talker. It would have been a lot more difficult.
Who knows what would have happened? It would have been a lot worse.
It could have been my word versus their word, you know? So it can become really messy. And so keeping your composure is really important, and thinking through exactly what happened. Because you need to be able to recall what are the events that happened and what makes this actually...
What makes
cheating.
you sure this is cheating versus a mistake?
Exactly. Because
right.
You don't want to ruin someone's Lorcana life, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, you want to be 1,000% sure. And in my situation, it was 1,000,000,000% sure.
Lorcana announcer Tannen Grace, he's gotten 3 people disqualified for cheating in Magic tournaments.
Oh.
He considers himself sort of like good at catching it, if that makes sense. I also consider myself pretty good at catching it.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Because the store I came up in, it was like you had to watch your opponent when they cast Ponder or something. You had to watch, because otherwise all 3 of those cards are going right in their hand if you're not looking.
Yeah.
So, there's players that are going to be good at this, and just sort of steel yourself about, like, obviously you want to think the best of people. Just keep a close eye on things. One of Magic's most famous cheaters, he was a smooth talker. Alex Bertoncini.
Yep.
That guy's charming. People like him when they talk to him.
It's true.
Which is how he got away with it so much. In the 2 Explorers video, for those of you who don't know, he got caught cheating, and he claimed it was because he played 2 Explorers, but even that didn't really add up. In the 2 Explorers video, his opponent goes, no, he's good. His opponent believes that Alex isn't cheating. That's how good it was.
Yeah, and if you're a well-known player, you can use that to your advantage as well.
Yeah.
And so no one should receive that type of benefit of the doubt. Like including myself. When you're playing against me, make sure you cut my deck. Make sure you ask how many cards are in your hand, and this is the way that we're going to be able to stop this the culture of cheating in Lorcana. I mean, Lorcana is a new game, and the amount of money that's in it is a lot. And I believe that this won't last long. I think Magic players are smart, but Lorcana players are on another level. Oftentimes they have great jobs. They are very stable in their life, and they are so data driven and work hard and want to be good at this game. And the community aspect is like nothing I've ever seen in a card game before.
Speaking of that, on day 2, you had 5 feature matches almost in a row where you were on camera every time. What was that like?
What was it like being on feature match? I mean, honestly, I wasn't thinking, oh, I got a feature match. The whole time I was thinking, okay, what do I believe? Oftentimes the judges will come to the table and be like, we're going to escort you to the feature match area. And so I would try to talk to my opponent and ask them where they're from and get to know them a little bit. Also, just think about what I think that they might be playing, right? I think that there's a lot of signs that you can read in terms of what you think your opponent's playing based off of where they're from, right? If you're traveling, you're willing to take less of a risk.
Less of a risk. You're probably on one of the main ones.
Exactly. So you're more likely to play top 3 decks. Exactly.
You know what? That's so funny because round 1, I played against Vegas local.
Yep.
He was on Blue Cow.
That's wild.
because he only had to drive 20 minutes to get to the video, so he might as well try Blue Cow.
Exactly. So don't try to predict what the locals play. Try to predict what people who are coming in and spending the money to
Especially
get there.
Vegas local. They're crazy. They're willing to they're willing to go crazy with these cards.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, feature matches every time. We had that. There's one thing that we've been meaning to tell you guys about. A couple of weeks ago, Zan and I played in
Two-headed giant event.
Two-headed giant Lorcana event, okay?
Yep.
And we wanted to be really clear about the rules because the rules of Two-headed giant Lorcana are a little up in the air right now.
True.
So before the event, we went to the tournament organizer and we just really made sure we knew how every card worked.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of effects that really stood out. You want to talk about them?
Amethyst Chromacon. Sudden Chill was another one.
Sudden Chill, if
then-
it's each opponent, I think.
Yeah, I think Sudden Chill is each opponent.
Well, the big one is You Have
Tremaine.
Forgotten Me is each opponent discards two
You
cards.
Have Forgotten Me, yeah. Mm-hmm. And Lady Tremaine.
Well, the one that we settled on was going to be the crown jewel of our deck is be King Undisputed and Lady Tremaine. Both say each opponent chooses and I think sacrifices one of their characters.
Yes, that is what it says.
Maybe it says chooses and banishes. I don't think we use the word sacrifice. It chooses and banishes one of their characters.
Yeah.
Which was just crazy.
Yeah, so talk about what decks we decided. But what
I ended up playing Amethyst and Steel to make use of the Amethyst Chromacon, refilling Zan's hand, because we said what deck could be so much better if it just drew a bunch of cards almost like accidentally, automatically. And the answer we came to was blue-red.
Yep. And so with blue-red, the build was, okay, how many of these not sacrifice,
Choose and banish.
choose and banish effects we could put into a deck.
Right.
And that's what we did. So I was going to take care of the late game, and Jeremy was going to take care of the early game with the steel and foxes.
And then there was another rule for this event that we actually begged the tournament organizer not to include.
Yeah, this rule was kind of wild.
This was a wild rule. So if I played a Madam Mim, apparently Zan and I shared a battlefield. So something that I was able to do was return his characters to his hand. This includes Lady Tremaine, which comes in and kills two guys.
Yep.
It also includes Tipo.
Which is now Tipo now Tipo can become ink as well.
Yeah, right. So on his turn 2, he would play Tipo and ink something. And then on my turn 2, I would play Madam Mim the Snake and bounce Tipo. And that was like...
it was
a little bit wild.
Mind blasting.
Anyway, we didn't drop a game.
Yeah, we won.
We won the event.
We won the event. So yeah, if basically, if there was a DLC that was Two-Headed Giant, we'd be the champions.
I think that goes without saying. I think I'm pretty comfortable saying that we would be easily the champions of that one.
Yeah, I hope that happens eventually.
I want to see more formats. I'm getting really good at limited. I drafted once on Sunday and my deck was hot. It was very good.
Yeah, you did beat Ryan.
I beat Ryan. Ryan's deck was really good. He played a bunch of Gales, and I actually beat a guy who went turn 1 Daisy Duck, the new one, the amazing Daisy Duck. Turn 2 another Daisy Duck, and then on turn 3 he played a 3/4 Bodyguard.
Oh my god!
I won that game.
What'd you do?
On my turn 2 I T-po'd, and then on my turn 3, I did 2 of the rushes. Or no, I did a rush and the Simba, the 2/1 that gives something 2 power.
Oh.
I did rush Simba. The rush was big enough to kill the bodyguard. And actually, at that point, it was the 0/4 bodyguard. And so I killed that bodyguard, and then Tipo put a damage on the Daisy. And the next turn, I got both the Daisies with another rush guy.
Let's go.
It was something. He was floored that he lost.
I mean, I would be.
I was shocked as well. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm down to play some limited events.
What happened the last time me and you played in the finals?
You lost that California twin in Chicago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but my first draft ever, I
won. Okay, yeah, all right. I'll tell you what happened. You drew Avalanche. Top decked Avalanche out of nowhere, unwinnable board. I had the Ursula's location where if one of my guys gets banished in challenge, it goes to my hand.
To right.
You were so dead. And then you drew Avalanche. You killed one of my guys in my brutal rare location. I was just
I mean, it was basically the finals match of this past weekend.
Fair enough. Oh, the finals match of the past weekend. If you haven't seen it, You gotta go watch it.
Yes.
Actually, we need to rewatch it.
Yeah, I really want to watch it
Probably
again.
not tonight because we just got in from Las Vegas and we're a little bit
It's true. Tired.
excited to go to sleep is what I call
I'm
that.
so I've not been this excited to go to sleep in a long time.
That's I'm starting to like Disney frame everything. So we don't say tired. We say we're excited to go to sleep.
We're sleepy.
We're
one of the dwarves.
We're the dwarf sleepy. So wrap it up. Vegas was an amazing experience for me. I had a great time.
Play my green steel deck.
Play his green steel deck. Nothing like your best friend and teammate winning in Vegas, and then we all go out and basically lose a bunch of money playing blackjack, having the best time of our lives.
Yeah, we also got to go to the Taco Bell Cantina, and I bought everybody food and some drinks, and it was a good time.
That was wild. It was like a dance party. We were all dancing.
Yeah, there's a private party that was happening upstairs, and I mean they played like YMCA and
Grease Lightning.
Everybody had a great time.
Everyone had a great time. We were certainly excited about that Taco Bell experience.
Well, let's. This is the end.
Let's wrap it up. I'm Mox Jeremy on Twitter, MoxJeremy, and you got to go to Twitter because that's where they're talking about Zan being the GOAT. You can find Zan at where?
Right here.
Right here on this YouTube channel. How lucky! And then you can expect to probably see an in-depth deck breakdown
Sometime this week.
So stay tuned. Bye, everybody.
Bye.